yes, please tell me about yourself.
Okay. I have 3 plus of years of experience as a Java developer using Java SE and Java E technologies. I'm expertise in developing applications using Spring Boot and JPA. I have hands-on creating RESTful web services, and I have hands-on creating components with the focus of MVC architecture.
Hmm.
And I have good work experience with microservices architecture and Spring Cloud components like service registry, API gateway, config server, admin server, and performing communications in both the ways like synchronous as well as asynchronous using REST template, web client, VN client, and performing unit testing. That's enough.
Okay, okay. So unit testing, you have used Makito,
Yes, Mockito,
JUnit.
Yes, JUnit plus Mockito and Jacopo for code coverage.
Okay. So how do you write? Just to give just brief in short term, what process you will follow for JUnit of REST API?
Okay. Basically, we have a separate folder to write these unit test cases in our project structure,
Hmm.
SRC test Java. So
Hmm.
instead of that, we are going to write the test cases for the individual components of our controller or service. For the we are going to test the individual components in an isolated manner using
Hmm.
this JUnit and Mockito. And of course, we are going to define a method to test the method which is annotated with the test annotation. And if you want, we can perform this, and we are going to inject the mock object instead of interacting with the original object or original layer. We are going to create a substitute or dummy object using this mockito or power mockito, whatever is framework,
Hmm.
and we are going to test the functionality, whatever the logic we have written is running as expected or not, is there any bugs or not. These are things. After that, we are going to perform this code coverage to check how many lines of code unit testing lines of code is covered as part of unit testing or not.
So you know Sonar Cube.
So yes, yes, SonarCube also. SonarCube we are going to use to perform code review
Hmm.
to understand whatever the code we have written, is it according to the programming standards or not, where we can understand the bugs and the code smells, vulnerability issues, these all things.
Oh, okay, great. So you know Gateway API, right?
Yes, Spring Cloud API Gateway. No.
So how do you configure? Suppose you have 100 APIs you have written and separate component, right? Separate module. So how do intercommunicate to each other by using the gateway API?
Okay, basically, the API gateway is the entry point for our applications.
Hmm.
Whatever the request coming to our application, request will be taken by the API gateway,
Hmm.
and API gateway will route the request to an appropriate service based on the if satisfies the condition. So we are going to configure this API gateway by adding the appropriate libraries and dependencies, and we
Hmm.
are going to do the configurations to route the request to an appropriate service inside the configuration application.properties or YML file, which contains the paths and predicates. So we can route the request to an appropriate service, and as part of this API gateway, we can write the filter logic also, where we can perform authentication authorization, or if you want to execute any request before the main logic, after the main logic.
Hmm. So what is service registry?
Service registry is acts like a database for our all the services,
Hmm.
which contains the information about our services like service name, URL, and each service running on how many instances, the status of the service. So which contains the service registry. As a service registry, we can use several services are there. Mostly we are going to use this Eureka server.
Hmm.
So our all the services will be registered with Eureka server.
Hmm.
So maintain the consistency between the services.
So means Eureka server need to be deployed all services in Eureka server. How means how to registered in Eureka server all
Uh, you
services.
you're asking about how to register our services with Eureka server.
Eureka server means
Okay.
you by using some Eureka dependency or you are using some configuration inside the application dot property. What process you follow for?
Uh,
Uh,
um,
yeah.
yeah, there are several ways I think to register with this. The thing is, here we are going to use the discovery client or we can use the Eureka client. If you are dealing with Eureka, we can use Eureka client also, or we can use Discovery client also, which can register with any server. So we are going to add this dependency or library to our appropriate services. And if the Eureka server is running on a default port number 8761, then we no need to register with Eureka server directly. It will be registered automatically. It will detect and register. So that's the thing. If it is running on another port number, so we are going to provide the manual configurations into a properties file to register with Eureka. Yes, that's the thing.
Okay, okay, okay.
And just we are going to use enable discovery client, enable Eureka client, etc. Things will be there. The annotations.
Okay, okay. So that part you write inside the Spring security area, right? Code.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So what is use of REST template?
REST template is in communication API, we can say. It is used to establish the communication between one API to another API, or we can consume the API using this REST template. We are going to perform only, we are going to make the only synchronous calls only. We can't able to do asynchronous calls. It is in legacy class. Maybe I think it is not available in the latest versions. Spring document only saying that instead of this REST template, use web client for the best better performance.
So means you telling. So what is the difference between Shrink and Async REST API?
I'm not getting what you're saying.
Shrink and REST Async APIs.
A Spring API.
No, no, no. Shrink and Async API.
Oh, I'm not getting exactly.
You
Can you
know
come again,
Shrink.
please?
You know Shrink API.
Spring API. You're saying what you're saying?
Shrink, Shrink.
S S
Yeah,
S for
yes.
Spring.
ESY
Okay.
ENC. Shrink API.
No, Spring API. I don't know. Yes.
Async AS.
Okay, okay. You are asking about synchronous and asynchronous
Yes,
communications.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
Basically,
say you in full word because of in short word we can say shrink API, shrink
yeah,
API.
yeah, yes, yes, yes. Sync and async API.
So how to what is differences here?
The difference is like in synchronous communication what will happen means after making the request to an API provider API, so the control will not come back until it gets the response from the API. And asynchronous communication API what will happen means after making the request to one API, the control will come back and it can make the request immediately to the another API without waiting for the response coming from the first API, so it can make the request to another API.
Okay, means controller one API you send data and don't wait for response and look
Yes, yes,
forward
you
to
can.
another.
Yes, you can make the request to another API immediately without waiting for a response.
Okay, okay. So so can you give example the real scenario about this?
Okay. For this example is like assume the example for the synchronous call or synchronous API. We have an application. In my application, I want to show the weather details, weather and climate details. So okay. So to display this, there is a one API called assume. There is a one API provided by the IBM who will provide the weather details. So we need to consume that API to provide the weather details in my API on my application. So before that, I need to provide the zip code to the IBM API, weather API. After providing the zip code only, it will provide the weather information. So first, I need to communicate with the zip code API to get the appropriate zip code of the area. So after getting the zip code, I'll send whatever the response coming from the zip code. That is the response. So here we are going to use the synchronous communication. After making the request, it will give the zip code. We are sending the zip code to the IBM API. So here whatever the response coming from the zip code API, it is mandatory as a request to the IBM API. Then only it will provide the weather response to our API. So here we can use the synchronous communication. So either response is from the first API, it is mandatory. Okay, are you getting?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. In asynchronous communication is like we can take the example. Uh, Assume we have one credit card application.
Just 1 minute. Synchronous don't need to go in the detail. Whatever API you are writing, that is
Yes, yes,
all are synchronous. Means suppose
yes, yes,
you put the data and get the response. That is synchronous.
yes, yes,
Asynchronous. Yes. Go ahead.
yes. Asynchronous is like assume the real time example. How can I tell you? Uh, Assume we have a credit card application.
Hmm.
So I want to get a credit card from the one of the vendor. So
Hmm.
before providing his credit card, obviously he's going to validate my Aadhaar card, PAN card details, of course, whatever the my salary things, etc. things. So assume here my credit card application is validating my Aadhaar card as well as the PAN card.
Hmm.
So it will ask my Aadhaar card and PAN card. So it will make the individual request to an Aadhaar card API to validate my authenticity,
Hmm.
as well as it will make the request to an PAN card API to validate my PAN card details. I mean citizen or whatever the things they are required. So here, whatever the response coming from the Aadhaar API, not required by the PAN card API as a response. So here we can use this asynchronous communication. Here making the request to another API, so no need to wait for the response. It can make immediately the request to the PAN card API to validate my authenticity.
Hmm. You can say in simple words, suppose you are using Kafka.
Yes, I know Kafka, but I did not use this Kafka. But I know Kafka, where we using this Kafka also we can perform this asynchronous communications.
If you are using some middlewares, okay,
Yes,
middleware. So in middleware, suppose you data placed to the Kafka server.
yes, Kafka server.
So Kafka server at a immediate cannot give you response. It will
Yes,
give
yes,
a
yes,
notification after the processing of the all process, whatever you have. So this
yes, yes,
also it is a part of asynchronous. And same thing, payment gateway. Suppose all companies are taking some payment gateway or something. Then
yes, yes,
you had done the payment. For example, net banking. Net
yes,
banking,
yes, yes,
you are doing through NIFT. Okay. So NIFT
yes,
what will do? NIFT will take your request and consider, and your amount will credit in other account, whatever you have registered. Then you will get the notification
notification,
through email or SMS that
text.
your account beneficiary account is created or something. So that is
Yes, sir.
also asynchronous actually.
Yes, yes, we can say
So
asynchronous.
I think just ask few other questions here. Okay, good for this kind of thing. So dispatcher servlet.
Yes, yes, yes. You want me to explain that?
Yes, yes. Because of this is
Okay.
our requirement. That's why I'm asking.
Yes, sir. Dispatcher servlet is in front controller in our Spring framework. So he's the front controller means dispatcher servlet will take the request, whatever the request coming to our application, request will be taken by the dispatcher servlet.
Hmm.
Dispatcher servlet will identify the appropriate controller method. So it will take the help of the handler mapper. So it will delegate the request to an appropriate controller. So of course, controllers will communicate with the services, beans, DEOs, MTTs, etc. request and response formats, and it will generate the appropriate response, and it will give the response to the dispatcher servlet, who is the front controller. The response will be included with the model and logical view name.
Okay,
So
okay,
dispatch.
okay, okay. Okay, that's it. So you have worked on JPA, right?
Yes, yes.
So what is advantage of this?
Basically, in traditional way, we are going to use the JDBC concept, which is Java database connectivity, which is a traditional way. There we have to do a lot of things manually, like loading the drivers, creating the connections, and creating the statements, prepared statements, and handling the result sets, closing the statements, closing the connections, handling the checked exceptions at that time only. There's all the things we have to do manually, which can be overcome using this JPS. Just we have to use the dependencies, we have to extend from the JPA or whatever it is, correct repository, JPA, paging and sorting. We can use here directly. So the thing, simple thing is, it reduces the burden from the programmer. We need to focus on the productivity.
Hmm. Okay, okay. So Spring security, right?
Yes, yes.
You have knowledge about HTML, CSS,
Uh,
JavaScript.
JavaScript not, but I have knowledge about HTML, CSS. Actually, I did not get the chance to work with it. If I get the chance, I definitely work HTML,
Okay,
CSS, React, or Angular, whatever it
okay,
is. I'm
okay,
really interested.
okay, okay, okay. Great, great. So now moving to, so you have GitLab, right?
Yes. GitHub, you know, GitHub. You can ask me.
Okay. And Maven.
Yes, Maven also. Of course, we are going to use Maven build tool as a to
So
develop the project.
suppose you want to. I'm just asking the Spring Boot. Okay.
Yes.
So all are telling about the Spring Boot. Spring Boot will provide the auto configuration, right? Right,
Mm.
without using XML or Java based configuration. Correct.
Yes, yes.
So what is which annotations role of these who managing all kind of configuration? Can you give the name of annotation?
Yes, that is annotation is at Spring Boot application annotation, which is annotated in the Spring Boot start
Okay,
class, which is the combination of three annotations.
okay, okay, great, great, not a problem. So suppose I will ask you related to um, a Spring Boot use some profiles, right? Use profile annotation, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So how it is work profile annotation?
Basically, in our application development, we have different type of environments like dev, QA, UAT, pre-production, etc. Things will be there. So to separate the configuration to a different environment, we are going to use this profiles concepts where we can provide the configuration to this different environments. Using this profile annotation also we can use, and we can configure into the properties or YAML file also.
Mm-hmm. What is scope variable?
Sorry, scope annotation.
Scope type variables in Spring Boot. You know?
Variable,
Yeah.
variable. No, I am not ever about. I not ever. I know the scope annotation. Basically, we have
So
different type.
singleton,
Yes, yes,
prototype.
yes, yes, yes. There are the scopes of the beans. By default, scope is the singleton only. There are several type of scopes like
So
prototype, request.
these are the scope type variables.
Yes, 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 yes. Singleton is the default one. Which
Okay, no
and the
problem, no problem, no
no, no,
problem.
I know, but the term is different. I thought what is
Okay, okay,
scope? Hmm.
okay, no problem, no problem. Um, you know, uh, in Java, what version you are right now using?
1.8.
1.8. So collection internal implementation of hash map.
Yes, yes.
Can you explain about that?
Okay. Basically, we have hash map. Hash map is the implementation class of the map interface, which will organize the data in the form of key value pair. Where how it is organized the data internally means basically when we are going to use put method to add the objects, basically it will accept key value pair. When we use this put method, it internally calls put val method. So it has a hash method which will calculate the hash code for our key to find the area bucket to store the objects. There will be a internal equals and hash code contract will be there. So it will check whether the object is already present in hash map of the memory or not. Using this equals method, if it whatever the keys is generated, it will calculate the hash code. The equals method will return the true or false. If it returns true, then it will replace the existing objects with the new object. Else, if it is written false, it will store into a next array of bucket.
Okay, okay.
It is totally work on the hashing algorithms.
So what is difference between hash map and concurrent hash map?
Yes, both are the implementation of the hash map only. Both organize the data in the form of key value pair. Here, where our hash map can hold one null key and multiple null values, where the concurrent hash map will not hold null keys and null values. Here, concurrent hash map is very faster. The concurrent hash map is thread safe, where hash map is not thread safe, where multiple threads can access the concurrent hash map. Other thing is our hash map is fail fast iterator. Concurrent hash map is fail safe iterator. While performing iteration, we can perform the structural modifications in our concurrent hash map. It will not throw any errors. So in hash map, while performing iteration, if we perform any structural modification, it will throw concurrent modification exception.
Okay. Okay, so in core Java, you know, optional classes.
Yes, it is also Java 8 feature. It
Mm-hmm.
is used to avoid the null pointer exception when we try to access a resource if the resource is not found, where we can handle this scenarios.
Okay, 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 okay. So I'm just asking one. you. Okay.
Okay.
This is related to just 1 minute hold. Suppose I will give you one program.
Okay.
This is a string, okay? A string str is equal to just xyz.
Okay.
So how to find duplicate characters from each string? Can you write this program?
Sure, sure. We have to remove the duplicates or we have to get the duplicates?
You get the duplicates, not a problem. Or you remove the duplicates. Any part you are feel good, you write.
Okay, okay.